A very gentle welcome to you, dear friend, and a quiet word of thanks for choosing to share this peaceful interlude with us here within the sanctuary of our channel. It is our most heartfelt wish that this story, the resonance of moss on silent bells, will be as a soft, cool hand upon a weary brow, its gentle cadences and tranquil atmosphere guiding you effortlessly toward the quiet shores of deep and untroubled sleep, allowing the day's burdens to simply melt away like mist in a gentle morning sun. Before you nestle down and allow the soft currents of this tale to carry you, if you find that this quiet journey brings a measure of solace and sweet repose to your spirit, might we softly suggest that a simple tap to like this story, or perhaps to subscribe to our little haven of calm, would be a most kind and welcome gesture. It does so help other seekers of tranquility to find their way to this peaceful shores. And now, with a gentle breath, let us venture together into the serene embrace of the Temple of Silent Chimes. Chapter 1, Arrival at Stillness. The path had grown softer underfoot some time ago, the packed earth giving way to thick, springy turf that muffled Lorien's footsteps, transforming the journey's end into a quiet approach. The air itself seemed to change, losing the dusty warmth of the open road, replaced by a cooler, cleaner scent, the smell of damp earth, of growing things hidden from the direct sun, and the faint, sweet perfume of wildflowers carried on a gentle, almost imperceptible breeze. Lorien paused, drawing a slow breath, feeling a subtle shift within, a quieting anticipation. The hills rolled gently here, soft green shoulders rising and falling like the slow breaths of a sleeping giant, cradling the hidden valley where the temple was said to lie. Ahead, nestled into a shallow dip where the slopes met, Lorien saw it. The Temple of Silent Chimes wasn't grand or imposing, but rather seemed to grow organically from the landscape. Built from large blocks of weathered gray stone, its lines were simple, softened by time and the elements. No sharp angles remained, corners were rounded, surfaces smoothed, as if caressed by centuries of wind and rain. An open archway, wide and inviting, served as the entrance, framing a view of a peaceful courtyard beyond. There were no gates, no barriers, only the quiet invitation of the open passage. Stepping through the archway felt like crossing an unseen threshold. The sounds of the outside world, the distant bleating of unseen sheep, the cheerful calls of birds in the upper hills faded, replaced by a profound quietude. Here, the dominant sounds were the soft sighing of the breeze as it moved through the leaves of ancient broadleaf trees flanking the courtyard, and the occasional, almost subliminal rustle, perhaps a leaf, detaching itself to drift slowly to the stone paving below. Lorien instinctively slowed, movements becoming more deliberate, absorbing the deep sense of peace that permeated the air like a subtle fragrance. Lorien felt the stone beneath worn sandals, large, smooth flagstones, cool even on this mild day. Reaching out, Lorien touched the side of the archway. The stone was surprisingly smooth, almost silky, testament to its great age and the gentle polishing of time. It felt solid, reassuring, grounding, a sense of having arrived, not just at a place but at a state of being, began to settle over Lorien, a welcome counterpoint to the quiet weariness that had prompted this journey. From a shaded alcove to the side, a figure emerged, moving with a quiet grace that matched the surroundings. This must be Kale, the Moss Keeper. Kale offered no effusive greeting, No barrage of questions, simply a warm, steady gaze and a gentle smile that reached kind eyes. With a simple, welcoming gesture, Kale indicated a low stone bench cushioned with a thick woven mat, inviting Lorien to rest. The silence between them wasn't awkward, but comfortable, filled with unspoken understanding. Soon, Kale returned, carrying 2 simple, handleless clay cups. Steam rose from them, carrying a comforting herbal aroma. Kale placed 1 cup gently into Lorien's waiting hands. The warmth seeped pleasantly through the clay, a welcome sensation. Lorien inhaled the steam, the soft floral scent of chamomile mingled with the honeyed sweetness of linden flowers. It was a simple offering, yet felt profoundly welcoming, a perfect introduction to the temple's gentle way. Lorien took a slow sip. The tea was warm, soothing, coating the throat with its gentle flavor. It felt like drinking liquid comfort, easing away the dust of the journey and settling the quiet flutter of arrival. Looking across the courtyard, Lorien could just glimpse the shapes of the great bells in the center, their forms softened by distance and shadow, promising secrets held within their silence. A feeling of being in the right place at the right time began to bloom gently within. Sitting there, sipping the warm tea, feeling the coolness of the stone, hearing the soft breath of the wind, Lorien felt the first layers of inner fatigue begin to dissolve. It wasn't a dramatic shift, but a subtle easing, like tight muscles slowly unclenching. The silence wasn't empty. It felt full, resonant, holding a promise of deeper peace yet to be discovered. The journey had been long, but the arrival felt like coming home to a quiet part of the self Lorien hadn't known was missing. Chapter 2. The Silent Bells. After the tea had been slowly finished, Kyle rose with that same unhurried grace and gestured gently towards the center of the courtyard. Lorien followed, footsteps soft on the cool flagstones. As they drew closer, the true nature of the structures Lorien had glimpsed earlier became clear. They were bells, immense bronze bells, larger than any Lorien had ever imagined, standing like ancient sentinels in the heart of the temple. But their surfaces were almost entirely obscured, enveloped in a thick, living tapestry of moss. It wasn't just one type of moss, but a rich ecosystem of greens. Deep, velvety forest greens covered the broad shoulders of the bells, transitioning into brighter, almost luminous jade hues along the curves. Patches of softer, feathery moss clung to crevices, contrasting with denser, more compact varieties that formed intricate patterns across the vast bronze surfaces. Droplets of morning dew, or perhaps remnants of a recent misting, clung to the moss fronds, catching the soft light and sparkling like tiny scattered jewels. The air here felt cooler, carrying the distinct, clean scent of living moss and damp earth. Kale stopped beside the nearest bell, regarding it with a quiet reverence, then looked towards Lorien, a gentle invitation in those calm eyes. Hesitantly, Lorien reached out a hand, palm open, towards the mossy surface. The initial contact was surprising, not rough or prickly, but cool, soft, and slightly damp, like touching velvet that had been kissed by morning mist. It yielded slightly under gentle pressure, a living cushion over the unyielding metal beneath. And then Lorien felt it. It wasn't a sound heard by the ears, but a sensation felt deep within the body, traveling up the arm from the point of contact, a low, incredibly deep vibration, a steady resonant hum that seemed to emanate from the very core of the bell and the earth beneath. It was profoundly peaceful, ancient, like the slow heartbeat of the world itself. It resonated in Lorien's bones, in the quiet spaces within, instantly calming the subtle, persistent hum of inner weariness. It was the silent song of the bells, filtered and softened by the living green cloaks. Cale nodded slightly, a silent acknowledgement of Lorien's discovery, then moved towards a collection of smooth earthenware jars resting near a stone basin that collected rainwater. Cale picked up a jar fitted with a simple spout designed to create a fine mist, handing a similar one to Lorien. Without words, Cale demonstrated the task, gently, evenly misting the moss, ensuring it remained moist and vibrant. The water wasn't sprayed forcefully, but allowed to drift down like soft rain, settling onto the thirsty green surfaces. Lorien mimicked Cale's slow, deliberate movements, walking softly around the great bell, applying the cool, resonant water from the clay jar. The only sounds were the gentle shh of the mist leaving the spouts, the almost inaudible whisper as it landed on the moss, and the soft sigh of the breeze moving through the courtyard. The repetitive, gentle action quickly became meditative, focusing on the task, on the feel of the cool jar, the sight of the water nourishing the vibrant green. Lorien felt the outside world, and even the inner landscape of thought recede further. There was a simple satisfaction in the work, a connection being formed not just with the ancient bell, but with the living moss itself. Lorien noticed the subtle variations in texture and color, the way the light played on the damp surfaces, the feeling of contributing in a small way to the maintenance of this extraordinary piece. The deep resonance continued, a constant calming presence felt through the soles of the feet now, grounding Lorien in the present moment. As they worked in companionable silence, misting each of the great bells in turn, Lorien noticed how the resonance seemed to subtly shift and deepen as the moss absorbed the water. It felt contented. The weariness that had clung like a shadow felt lighter, less substantial, replaced by a growing sense of quiet presence and immersion in the temple's unique rhythm. The silent bells, far from being inert monuments, felt profoundly alive, sharing their ancient peaceful energy through the medium of moss and vibration. Chapter 3. Learning the Resonance. The following days settled into a gentle rhythm, guided by the quiet presence of Cale and the profound influence of the silent bells. Much time was spent simply being near them. Cale provided soft, thickly woven mats made from some resilient local grass, placing them on the cool flagstones near the base of the bells. Here, Lorien would sit, sometimes with Cale, often alone, learning not to listen in the conventional sense, but to feel the deep, resonant hum that permeated the courtyard. At first, it required conscious effort. Lorien would close their eyes, letting other senses recede, focusing entirely on the subtle vibration felt through the mat, through the stones, sometimes placing a hand gently back onto the cool, soft moss. It was like learning a new language, one spoken not in sound, but in pure feeling. The resonance was constant, yet subtly dynamic, shifting in intensity, perhaps, with the time of day or the quality of the light. Though Lorien couldn't be sure, it felt like a vast, slow tide washing gently through the body. Cale offered quiet guidance, not through lectures, but through example and occasional soft-spoken suggestions. "Breathe with it," Cale murmured one afternoon, noticing Lorien's focused stillness. Lorien tried this, consciously slowing the breath. inhaling as the resonance seemed to subtly swell, exhaling as it subtly ebbed, finding a rhythm that matched the deep, slow pulse. This simple act of synchronicity deepened the connection dramatically. It felt less like observing the resonance and more like becoming part of it. With this rhythmic breathing, Lorien began to notice the physical effects more clearly. A pleasant sensation of weight settled in the limbs, not heavy fatigue, but comforting groundedness, as if tension was physically dissolving and flowing down into the earth. Warmth often followed, spreading gently from the core outwards, particularly noticeable in hands and feet that often felt cool with lingering tiredness. It was the body responding, letting go, accepting the invitation to deep rest offered by the bell's silent song. There were moments when the mind would inevitably wander, thoughts drifting back to the world left behind, or anxieties whispering at the edges of awareness. But the constant, steady thrum of the bells acted as a gentle anchor. Noticing the distraction, Lorien learned to simply acknowledge the thought without engaging, and then gently redirect attention back to the physical sensation of the resonance, back to the slow, steady rhythm of the breath. Each return felt like a small victory for peace, a strengthening of the inner stillness. Kale also showed Lorien how the resonance seemed to pool in certain areas of the courtyard, perhaps where the stone was older or the configuration of the bells created a focal point. They would sit together in these spots, sometimes sipping the warm, resonant tea, feeling the effects amplified a deeper calm, a more profound sense of letting go. The simple act of sharing this silent experience fostered a quiet bond between them, built on mutual respect for the temple's unique gift. Lorien began to perceive the resonance not just as a physical vibration, but as an emanation of pure peace. It felt ancient, wise, and incredibly patient. It asked nothing, demanded nothing, simply offered its calm influence unconditionally. Learning to attune to it was an exercise in receptivity, in allowing oneself to be held and soothed by this gentle, powerful energy. The persistent weariness hadn't vanished entirely, but it had retreated, softened, replaced by growing moments of clear, untroubled calm. Day by day, the attunement deepened. Lorien could feel the resonance almost immediately upon entering the courtyard now, a familiar, comforting presence. It was becoming part of Lorien's own inner landscape, a quiet hum beneath the surface of thought and feeling. The practice wasn't about achieving something, but about allowing something, allowing the stillness of the temple to permeate, allowing the silent song of the bells to harmonize the quiet aches within, fostering a slow, gentle healing from the inside out. Chapter 4. Tending the courtyard garden. Beyond the immediate circle of the great moss-covered bells lay another source of quiet activity and connection within the temple walls, the courtyard garden. It wasn't a large space, perhaps nurtured in a wide crescent shape where the sunlight lingered longest, but it was meticulously tended and radiated a gentle, thriving energy that complemented the ancient stillness of the bells. Kale invited Lorien to share in its care, another form of quiet communion with the temple's rhythms. The soil in the raised beds was dark, rich, and cool to the touch, crumbling easily between Lorien's fingers. It carried the clean, earthy scent of healthy ground, mingled with the subtle fragrances of the plants themselves. There were soft, gray-green leaves of lamb's ear, fuzzy and comforting to stroke. The bright, cheerful green of mint, releasing its sharp, refreshing scent when brushed against, and the delicate, feathery fronds of lemon balm, offering a citrusy aroma that felt both calming and uplifting. Kale showed Lorien how to gently loosen the soil around the plants with small, smooth wooden tools, and how to patiently remove the small, persistent weeds that emerged, distinguishing them carefully from the valued herbs. Watering was a slow, deliberate ritual, using weathered wooden pails filled from the stone basin that collected rainwater water already subtly infused with the temple's resonance. They would gently pour streams near the base of each plant. Lorien enjoyed watching the water darken the soil as it soaked in, listening to the soft, thirsty sounds it made. There was a deep satisfaction in providing this simple necessity in nurturing the quiet life of the garden. The movements were repetitive, grounding: dip the pail, lift carefully, pour slowly, repeat. Some sections of the garden were dedicated to flowers chosen not for bright daytime displays, but for their evening fragrance. Tucked amongst the herbs were the tightly furled buds of night-blooming jasmine and the pale, promising shapes of moonflowers. Kale explained, in quiet tones, how these would open as dusk fell, releasing their sweet, calming scents into the cool night air, adding another layer to the temple's sensory peace. Tending these felt like preparing for a gentle, fragrant transition from day to night. Working side by side with Kale in the garden fostered a different kind of connection. While the bells offered a profound internal stillness, the garden offered a connection to the cycles of growth, care, and gentle productivity. The tasks required focus, but a soft, easy focus that allowed the mind to quiet naturally. The physical sensations, the feel of the cool earth, the texture of leaves, the warmth of the sun on Lorien's back, the scent of disturbed soil and bruised herbs were grounding and deeply pleasant. Sometimes, late afternoon bees would visit the few flowering herbs, their buzzing a low, drowsy counterpoint to the deeper thrum of the bells. Lorien would pause, watching their gentle, purposeful movements, feeling a part of the quiet ecosystem of the courtyard. There was no rush here, no deadline, only the steady rhythm of tending and observing, of contributing to the simple beauty of the space. Engaging in these tasks, Lorien felt the lingering traces of weariness continue to recede, replaced by a sense of simple purpose and quiet contentment. The garden work complemented the stillness learned by the bells. It was peace expressed through gentle action, through nurturing life. Crumbling the cool earth, breathing the fresh scents, feeling the sun's warmth, these simple acts were profoundly restorative, weaving Lorien more deeply into the fabric of the Temple of Silent Chimes. The connection felt tangible, real. Lorien wasn't just a visitor anymore, but a participant in the temple's quiet life, finding solace not only in stillness, but also in the gentle rhythms of care and cultivation. The garden, like the bells, offered its own form of silent teaching, grounding Lorien in the earth and the present moment, fostering a sense of belonging and simple, peaceful well-being. Chapter 5. Harmonizing Within. Twilight was Lorien's favorite time in the temple courtyard. The work in the garden done, the moss and the bells still damp and fragrant from its afternoon misting, Lorien would find a familiar spot on one of the woven mats near the base of the largest bell. The fierce light of day softened, replaced by gentle washes of color painting the sky above the temple walls, soft pinks bleeding into lavender, deepening into velvety blues. As the first stars began to prick the darkening canvas, the air grew cooler, carrying the first hints of the night-blooming jasmine's sweet perfume from the nearby garden. Sitting there, Lorien no longer needed conscious effort to feel the bell's resonance. It was simply present. A deep, unwavering hum felt not just through the stone, but seemingly within Lorien's own being. It felt like a fundamental frequency, a baseline of profound calm that now resonated within Lorien's core. The journey here had been driven by a search for respite from weariness, but what Lorien had found felt deeper, a rediscovery of an innate inner stillness that had been obscured, but never truly lost. The resonance felt different now, not something external to tune into, but an internal state that harmonized with the temple's energy. Breathing slowly, Lorien felt the gentle rise and fall of the chest align effortlessly with the deep pulse of the bells. Thoughts still arose, but they felt distant, less compelling, like ripples on the surface of a deep, calm pool. The quiet ache of fatigue that had been a constant companion for so long was now just a faint memory, replaced by a gentle sense of vitality and peace. Kale emerged softly from the shadows, carrying 2 steaming cups, the familiar scent of chamomile preceding their arrival. Kale settled onto a mat nearby, offering a cup to Lorien without breaking the shared tranquility. They sat in comfortable silence, sipping the warm, soothing tea, watching the stars emerge one by one in the vast quietness above. The silence between them was rich, full of unspoken understanding and shared appreciation for the profound peace of the place. Lorien looked at the immense moss-covered bell nearby, its form softened in the twilight. It no longer seemed like just an ancient object, but a wise, living presence, patiently emanating its calming song into the world. Gratitude welled up within Lorien, gratitude for the journey, for Kale's gentle guidance, for the unexpected gift of the temple's resonance, and for the rediscovery of this deep inner quietude. The feeling wasn't one of excitement or sharp joy, but rather a deep, abiding contentment, a sense of rightness. It was the feeling of having found a safe harbor, not just physically, but emotionally and spiritually. The temple, with its silent bells, its fragrant garden, its gentle rhythms, had offered a space to simply be, to let go, and to allow healing to unfold at its own unhurried pace. The resonance had seeped into the weary spaces, smoothing out the frayed edges, restoring a sense of wholeness. As the last light faded and the courtyard settled into deep twilight, bathed in the soft glow of starlight and the rising scent of jasmine, Lorien felt truly harmonized. The outer quiet of the temple mirrored the inner quiet cultivated over the preceding days. The resonance of the bells now felt like Lorien's own baseline, a steady, peaceful hum to carry forward long after leaving this sacred space. Kale offered a soft smile in the dimness, a silent acknowledgement of the transformation, of the peace found and integrated. The night deepened, cool and still. Lorien continued to sit, feeling the gentle weight of relaxation in the limbs, the easy rhythm of the breath, the profound, unwavering peace emanating from the silent bells, now echoed perfectly within. There was no need to strive, no need to seek further. Here, in the heart of the resonant silence, Lorien had found the stillness they sought, not as a destination, but as a way of being, ready to be carried gently back into the world.